Okay, so buckle up because this story is absolutely wild. I'm talking mafia dynasties, fake disabilities, evil stepmothers, and a plot twist that literally made my jaw drop to the floor. You're going to want to hear every single detail of this mess. So let me set the scene for you. My name is Elena, and up until 6 months ago, I thought my life couldn't possibly get any worse. Spoiler alert, I was wrong. But also, I was so right in ways I never expected. Here's the thing about my life before all this chaos, it was already a dumpster fire. My mom died when I was 12, and my dad remarried this woman named Victoria within a year. Classic evil stepmother situation, right? Except Victoria brought 2 daughters with her, Celeste and Miranda, who made Cinderella's stepsisters look like actual saints. I'm not even exaggerating. These women made my life a living nightmare. Every single day was a new form of humiliation. They'd hide my things, blame me for everything that went wrong in the house, and my personal favorite, they'd serve me dinner scraps while they ate like queens. My dad just stood by and watched it happen because apparently Victoria had him completely wrapped around her finger. But I dealt with it. I kept my head down, worked 2 jobs to save money for college, and dreamed of the day I could finally escape that toxic house. Then everything changed the day my dad collapsed. I came home from my shift at the diner to find an ambulance outside our house. My dad had suffered a massive heart attack and needed emergency surgery. Not just any surgery, we're talking $250,000 worth of medical procedures. Insurance covered maybe a third of it. We were devastated and absolutely broke. I was frantically trying to figure out how to get loans, maybe start a fundraiser, sell everything I owned, when Victoria called a family meeting. And this is where things get absolutely insane. She sat us all down in the living room with this creepy smile on her face and said, "I found a solution to our financial problems." I should have known right then that nothing good was coming. Victoria explained that she had connections to some very powerful people. Apparently, before she married my dad, she used to work for this wealthy family, doing their books or something. And this family, the Moretti family to be specific, had a problem. Now, if you don't know who the Morettis are, let me educate you. They're basically the mafia family in our city. Everyone knows about them, but nobody talks about them, you know what I mean? They own half the businesses, control all the underground operations, and have enough power to make people disappear without a trace. The head of the family, Don Antonio Moretti, had a son. His name was Dante, and according to every rumor on the street, he was absolutely terrifying. They called him the devil of the Moretti Empire. People said he was ruthless, cold-blooded, and had personally eliminated dozens of his family's enemies before he turned 25. But here's the kicker, about a year ago, Dante was in some kind of accident. The details were super vague because, you know, mafia families don't exactly issue press releases. But the word on the street was that he was now paralyzed from the waist down, confined to a wheelchair, and basically a shadow of his former self. The Moretti family was desperate to maintain their image of strength, so they wanted Dante to get married. Having a wife would show the other families that despite his condition, the Moretti heir was still a force to be reckoned with. But shockingly, no one wanted to marry the paralyzed devil. And that's where I came in. Victoria, in all her evil stepmother glory, had made a deal with the Morettis. They would pay for all of my dad's medical expenses, give us an additional $100,000, and in return, I would marry Dante Moretti. I literally laughed in her face. Like, full-on hysterical laughter because this had to be a joke, right? Except Victoria wasn't laughing. Neither were Celeste and Miranda, who were looking at me with these satisfied smirks. "You can't be serious," I said. "You want to sell me to the mafia?" Victoria shrugged. "I prefer to think of it as a mutually beneficial arrangement. Your father gets his surgery, we get financial security, and you get to live in luxury as a Moretti wife. It's really a win-win. Except for the part where I'm being forced to marry a paralyzed crime boss I've never met." Celeste rolled her eyes. "Oh please, Elena, stop being so dramatic. It's not like you have any other prospects. You're 23, broke, and let's be honest, not exactly a catch. This is probably the best offer you're ever going to get. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But then I thought about my dad lying in that hospital bed, fighting for his life, and I knew I didn't actually have a choice. The wedding happened 2 weeks later. And when I say wedding, I mean a cold, administrative ceremony in the Moretti family mansion with exactly 7 people present: me, Dante, Don Antonio, Victoria, my stepsisters, and 2 witnesses I'd never met. I didn't even see my husband's face until I was walking down the makeshift aisle in their grand living room. And oh my god, you guys, despite everything, despite the fact that I was being sold like property, despite the fact that my entire life was falling apart, when I saw Dante Moretti for the first time, my breath literally caught in my throat. He was sitting in a wheelchair, wearing an all-black suit that probably cost more than my entire year's salary. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and these intense gray eyes that seemed to see right through me. He wasn't smiling, his face was completely expressionless, but he was absolutely gorgeous. The ceremony lasted maybe 10 minutes. We said our vows with all the enthusiasm of 2 people reading a grocery list. I signed the papers with a shaking hand. And just like that, I became Elena Moretti, wife of the devil himself. The reception, if you could even call it that, was even more awkward. We sat at this enormous dining table, me at one end and Dante at the other, while his family members filed in to offer their congratulations that felt more like threats. Dante's uncle, a man named Luca who looked like he ate nails for breakfast, leaned in close to me and whispered, "Welcome to the family, girl. Try not to disappoint us." His cousin Bianca, a stunning woman in her 30s, looked me up and down with pure disgust. "I give this marriage 3 months before she runs screaming," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Even Don Antonio, Dante's father, seemed unimpressed with me. He made a speech about family loyalty and Moretti traditions, but his eyes were ice cold when they landed on me. The only person who showed me any kindness was Nana Moretti, Dante's grandmother, a tiny woman with silver hair who squeezed my hand and whispered, "You have kind eyes, child. Don't let them break you." After the reception, Dante and I were taken to the west wing of the mansion, where apparently we'd be living. A nurse wheeled him into the master bedroom, and I followed awkwardly behind, carrying my single suitcase that contained everything I owned. The room was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture, and a bed that could probably fit 6 people. But despite the luxury, it felt like a prison. The nurse helped Dante into bed, gave me some instructions about his care routine, and then left us alone. And let me tell you, the silence was deafening. I stood there, still in my simple white dress that Victoria had picked out, having no idea what to do or say. Finally, Dante spoke. His voice was deep and rough, like he didn't use it very often. "You can take the bedroom. I'll sleep in the chair." "What?" "No, I can't let you. I'm paralyzed, not dead," he cut me off. "I'm used to sleeping in uncomfortable positions. Take the bed." There was something about his tone that made it clear this wasn't up for discussion. So I just nodded and grabbed my suitcase. That first week was absolutely bizarre. Dante barely spoke to me. He'd spend most of his time in his study, supposedly working on family business from his wheelchair. I was left to wander the massive mansion, trying to understand my new life. But here's where things started getting weird. The Moretti family hated me. And I don't mean they were just cold or unwelcoming, I mean they actively despised my existence. Bianca would accidentally spill wine on me during family dinners. Luca would make comments about how I was just a gold digger who didn't deserve the Moretti name. Even the staff treated me like I was an intruder. But the worst was Dante's mother, Carmela. She was this elegant, terrifying woman who made it very clear that she thought her son had made a terrible mistake. "You're weak," she told me one afternoon, cornering me in the hallway. "You come from nothing, you have no power, no connections, no skills that would benefit this family." I don't know what my husband was thinking, allowing this marriage. I tried to stand up for myself. "With all due respect, Mrs. Moretti, I didn't ask for this. I was forced into this marriage just as much as your son was." Her eyes went cold. "The difference, dear, is that my son is a Moretti. He has value. You You're disposable. And that's when I started to realize, Dante's family didn't just dislike me. They wanted me gone. As in, permanently. I started noticing little things. My food would taste off sometimes, and I'd get violently ill afterward. I'd hear people whispering and then going silent when I walked by. Once, I swear I saw Luca talking to some dangerous-looking men and pointing in my direction. I tried to tell Dante about my concerns, but he just looked at me with those expressionless gray eyes and said, "You're being paranoid." But I wasn't paranoid. I was in danger. Things came to a head about a month into the marriage. I was taking a walk in the mansion's garden, trying to clear my head, when someone pushed me from behind. I fell forward, barely catching myself before I hit the stone fountain. I whipped around and saw Bianca standing there with this evil smile. "Oops," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "You should be more careful, Elena. Accidents happen all the time in this family." That night, I broke down. I sat in the bathroom, crying my eyes out, wondering how my life had become this nightmare. I had saved my dad's life, but at what cost? Was I going to die in this mansion, murdered by my own in-laws? I must have been crying louder than I thought because suddenly the bathroom door opened and Dante wheeled himself in. For the first time since our wedding, he actually looked concerned. "What happened?" he demanded. Through my tears, I told him everything. The poisoning attempts, the threats, Bianca pushing me, all of it. Dante's jaw clenched. "Why didn't you tell me this was happening?" "I tried. You said I was paranoid." He was quiet for a long moment, and then he did something that shocked me. He reached out and took my hand. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I should have listened to you. I should have protected you." And that's when everything changed. Over the next few days, Dante started actually talking to me. We'd have dinner together in our room instead of with the family. He'd ask me about my life, my dreams, what I liked to do. I learned that he loved classical music, that he could speak 4 languages, and that before his accident, he was actually studying architecture because he wanted to design buildings, not destroy people. Everything they say about me, he told me one night, most of it isn't true. Yes, I've done things I'm not proud of. This life doesn't give you much choice. But I'm not the devil they make me out to be. I was starting to see that. Despite being stuck in a wheelchair, despite his family's coldness, Dante was kind to me. He made me laugh. He listened when I talked. For the first time since my mom died, I felt like someone actually cared about me. And then, about 2 months into our marriage, I discovered the truth. I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and realized Dante wasn't in his usual spot in the chair by the window. Panic set in. Where was he? Had something happened? I searched our room and then heard noise coming from his study down the hall. I quietly walked over and pushed open the door. And there he was. Standing. Not sitting in his wheelchair, but standing perfectly upright, walking across the room to grab a file from his bookshelf. I gasped, and he froze. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then Dante's expression shifted from shock to something else, something I couldn't quite read. "Elena," he said carefully. "I can't explain." "You're not paralyzed," I whispered. "You've been faking it this whole time." He moved toward me, walking perfectly normally, and gently closed the study door behind me. "Sit down," he said. "Please. Let me explain everything." My mind was reeling, but I sat. And then Dante told me the truth. The accident that supposedly paralyzed him? It was actually an assassination attempt by a rival family. But instead of killing him, it had only grazed him. In that moment, Dante realized something. As long as everyone thought he was weak and helpless, they wouldn't see him as a threat. So he faked being paralyzed. For an entire year, he pretended to be confined to a wheelchair while secretly recovering and strengthening his position. He watched his enemies get comfortable, watched them reveal their true intentions, watched them make mistakes. "My own family," he said bitterly, "half of them have been plotting against me, thinking I'm too weak to lead. They've been making deals behind my father's back, stealing from the family business, and preparing to push me out entirely. And me? I asked. Where do I fit into all this? Dante looked at me with those intense gray eyes. You were supposed to be a placeholder. A fake wife to maintain appearances while I figured out my next move. But Elena, you became so much more than that. He took my hands in his. You're kind, strong, resilient. You've been dealing with my family's abuse and threats, and you haven't run. You haven't broken. You're exactly the kind of person I'd actually want by my side. My heart was racing. So what happens now? Dante smiled, and it was the first real smile I'd seen from him. Now we turn the tables. Tomorrow night, there's a family gathering. My father is announcing his retirement and naming his successor. Everyone expects him to choose my Uncle Luca because they think I'm too weak. But you're not. Exactly. Tomorrow night, I'm going to stand up, literally and figuratively. I'm going to expose everyone who's been working against this family. And I'm going to claim my rightful place as the head of the Moretti Empire. And what about me? I asked nervously. Dante cupped my face in his hands. You're my wife, Elena. My real wife, if you'll have me. Not because of some arrangement, but because I'm falling for you. These past 2 months, getting to know you, seeing your strength, I don't want this to be fake anymore. I should have been scared. I should have run. But instead, I leaned forward and kissed him. The next night, the family gathering was intense. Everyone was there, all the Morettis, their associates, their enemies who'd been invited to witness the power transfer. Don Antonio stood at the head of the massive dining table and began his speech about legacy and leadership. Everyone was watching, expecting him to name Luca as his successor. But then Dante stood up. You should have seen their faces. Bianca literally dropped her wine glass. Carmela went pale. Luca looked like he'd seen a ghost. Surprised? Dante said, his voice carrying across the room. Did you all really think I wouldn't figure out what you've been doing? For the next hour, Dante systematically exposed every betrayal. He had evidence of Luca's embezzlement, proof of Bianca's deals with rival families, documents showing how various family members had been undermining the Moretti Empire while thinking Dante was too weak to stop them. Don Antonio was furious. You've all betrayed this family, he roared. You let greed and ambition poison your loyalty. Then he turned to Dante with something like pride in his eyes. You've proven yourself, son. Not just as a leader, but as someone willing to make the hard choices. The Moretti family is yours. Just like that, Dante became the head of the family. And I, the girl who'd been sold into this marriage, became the wife of the most powerful man in the criminal underworld. But the story doesn't end there. Over the next few months, Dante cleaned house. The family members who'd betrayed him were either removed from positions of power or, in some cases, removed entirely. The ones who remained learned very quickly that despite his kindness to me, Dante was not someone to cross. As for me, I went back to school using Moretti money. Dante insisted, said he wanted me to have the education I'd always dreamed of. I'm studying business now, learning how to help run the legitimate side of the family empire. My dad made a full recovery, by the way. Victoria tried to come crawling back when she realized I was now a powerful Moretti wife, but I had security escort her off the property. Some bridges are better burned. And Dante? He's everything I never knew I wanted. He's protective but not controlling, powerful but still gentle with me, and despite running a criminal empire, he makes me breakfast every Sunday morning. Last week, he asked me if I regretted being forced into this marriage. I thought about it, really thought about it. I thought about the fear, the abuse from his family, the danger I faced. But I also thought about the man I'd fallen in love with, the life we were building together, the strength I'd discovered in myself. No, I told him honestly. I don't regret it. Because it brought me to you. He kissed me then, and whispered, "You saved me, Elena." Not the other way around. So,
Yeah,
That's my story. I was forced to marry a paralyzed mafia boss who turned out to not be paralyzed at all. His family tried to kill me, but joke's on them because now I'm the queen of their empire, and the devil himself is completely devoted to me. Life's funny that way, isn't it? Sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you turns out to be the best thing. You just have to survive long enough to see it. And trust me, I plan on surviving for a very, very long time.